Hello, everyone. Welcome to Beyond the Stack. In this series, we move past demos, buzzword, to discuss how technology actually operates within organizations and how leaders stay in control as systems scale. I'm Andy, and I have experience building and scaling enterprise systems and have been closely involved in shaping ArkOS, building it from our operator's perspective. Today's conversation is special. We are introducing a clear point of view on how AI should be designed, validated, scaled in real world, and as AI becomes embedded in everyday decisions, the question is about how to run intelligence with confidence and clarity. That's the thinking behind Trigent's ArkOS, an operator-grade AI workbench built to remove any hurdles that are there in the process of experimentation, deliver teams to move from experimentation to dependable execution. Today, I'm joined by Shyam, our Executive Vice President for Innovation at Trigent Software, whose background spans applied AI, healthcare, enterprise systems, and who brings strong systems view on scaling AI responsibly. Let's start by grounding this conversation in why Trigent ArkOS exists. From your perspective, what changed in the market or in enterprise realities that made Trigent ArkOS not just useful, but necessary at this point?
Yeah, thanks. So I think there's like a couple of things that have happened over the past few years, right? As we've seen AI move from pilots into real production environments, the technology has caught up from being science fiction to something that works. If you remember the first GPT-3 that came out basically made up every single answer. And so while it was cool and you could talk to it, it wasn't something you could deploy into a production or enterprise environment. But what we've seen now with the later models and each iteration becomes even more incrementally small in terms of accuracy for many of the applications within an enterprise setting. It's much easier to build. And so because it's much easier to build, we have a better idea of how we can implement it into industry. What we found, though, is that it's not just the technology, but it's about building that trust and confidence in the technology. As we're going in, working with customers, changing how they do work fundamentally, they have to believe that the AI is doing the work that they were going to do, at least as a starting point. Then they can believe it can do it better or faster or cheaper or whatever. And so for us, Trigent ArkOS, the system we built, is a natural evolution there. It's grounded in the technology and the technology that everybody's got access to, but our process around ArkOS lets us build that trust and confidence early in the process, show the results early before we make these giant investments in infrastructure or data warehousing, or even go to the board and say, this is the type of AI I want to do. And we found that it's helping our customers take those stepping stones into AI transformations. So as you and I sat down and put ArkOS together, I think it'd be helpful to talk through what it is designed to be and where we made intentional decisions that it shouldn't be there. So what's it designed to do? And what are we not trying to replace or compete with?
Oh, definitely. So ArkOS as a workbench works complementary to the hyperscalers. We are not trying to go ahead and replace any of the studios that exist from the big guns as such. We are trying to piggyback on the ML ops stacks that exist, but all we are trying to bring in is focus on how we can have upstream decision and validation layer done right from the get-go. Think of it this way. When you look at it from a standard development perspective, you do not invest on a database on day one. You go ahead and do that later on. First, all the development is happening in that shell by the developer on developer's machine. What do we have for AI? We don't have anything that you can use that easily locally. And that's what we have made ArkOS to be. Something that can work locally, allow us to ideate, allow us to validate logic, allow us to prompt engineer the workflows, get the economics right, get the outcomes perfected early on without worrying too much about the cloud API costs that might be there or what have you, right? It is all about validating first and then scaling. It ArkOS fundamentally looks at it from a perspective that it has to be informed scaling, not focus on accelerating deployment. It is, after all, about getting value in the hands of the users and getting it to production, but that's not what we should be doing from the get-go. We should be ideating, evaluating, improving, and then getting it to a stage wherein our users feel part of that journey and do it the right way. So essentially, that's where we feel the real value is, based on everything that we have been working through, right? What kind of decision environments or use cases benefit the most from Trigent ArkOS? I have got my favorites, but would like to understand what does it give leaders like yourself, the idea of how you should implement ArkOS and why you should implement ArkOS within your ecosystem.
Yeah. So before we answer that, I'm going to take half a step back. And you said it's about scale before validation, and I think that part, right, brings the discussion closer to the actual doing of work in enterprise, right? I like I was saying, I need to believe this technology is going to work. I can't use technology for technology's sake. As much as I'd love to get all the latest toys and play with them, at the end of the day, there's the work of doing work that needs to get done, and so we have to believe that's going to work. And so understanding that in small, specific ways is really important. As we think about the technology today, and my favorite thing to tell our customers is, the technology is irrelevant, and it's a gross overgeneralization. But the point holds that we're very good at reading PDFs and documents and organizing databases and taking voice inputs and video inputs and whatever version of it, organizing that, and then making decisions based on that. And the decisions that we're allowed to make or encode are based on the users who's developing it, right? So how am I encoding my previous experience or my preferences or whatever into the system that's making the decisions? And so if we take that and expand it out, what kind of decisions or what kind of business applications are the real ones? It's where I need to integrate a ton of information and make a fundamentally better decision. So, as you know, we're working with a number of different customers across industries. If you think about any industry where you have contracts that come in, you've developed some, your customers have developed some, each has their own nuance, each has been amended, its own number of times. And so you're trying to create a repeatable business, but also you're trying to run the business and execute on these contracts that you have. And it's near impossible to do that at any sort of broad intelligence level. So one of the systems, right, we've built is to say, how do I look at all of this legalese language nonsense that exists on paper, and what does that mean in real life? And then what implications does that have for things I can do down the line with new customers? And if we take that even a step further, right, then I can start to say, well, I made this decision 18 months ago and it's encoded in paper. Let me track the performance of that decision, because then I can go back and say, I'd rather not make that decision again. I'd rather not execute a contract like this again. I think another place is it builds bridges between technical and non-technical users, right? I think you and I are having a very different discussion in the past 6 months than we had 18 months ago, where there was the fundamentals of the technology, and then there's, hey, can it do this? And now we've met in the middle talking about the technology, but also focused on why the technology exists and what we want to do with it. So it allows, in a world where boards, leadership teams are all saying, like, we got to do AI, why aren't we doing AI? It allows us to help our customers go to those teams and say, this is what AI means. I can save you 2 hours on this a week, or this person can do 9 times the amount of things they were doing before, and focus on the intellectual value add activities, not just moving boxes, in a PowerPoint. So I think that's kind of where ArkOS lets us reframe this whole integration of technology into enterprise work. But like we said, right, bridging the technology and bridging the outcomes. I think it'd be helpful to talk through what ArkOS actually is. There's the layers, they work together, but what are they? What do they do? Why did we design it in this way?
Well, see, one of the idea behind our course was to build something purpose built for your problem, for your situation, right? You're trying to automate your workflow, and every workflow is very unique. So definitely one of the thought process was to have everything work together seamlessly. But in its own way, we wanted to go ahead and have silos of activities created. In that way, we are able to have purpose-built solutions for one objective at a time. In any kind of a AI solution, you got to look at it from four perspective, right? There is always this orchestration layer where you are trying to bring in data from multiple places. It could be as simple as just getting your EDW right, your enterprise data warehouse, enterprise data lake in right position as such. So bringing everything together is one layer for sure. That has to be solved in one way or the other for rest of the pieces to work together. So we have got an orchestration layer, we call it Jala. And then this orchestrated data has to be connected and orchestrated furthermore in a form of a workflow. You need that data at the right time, at the right opportune moment, like where you were talking about contract evaluation, right? And then there is a need for human oversight. We have to have human in loop because essentially we are building the solutions for the operators who are trying to go ahead and do more than just, as you said it, moving the boxes in the PPT. They are trying to go ahead and take actionable decisions through AI and AI's assistant. So bring them in at the right moment. It can be in various dimensions. It can be a chat bot. It can be a voice bot. It can be something where we are orchestrating messages through AI, trying to go ahead and build decision trees where we pull in human together and have that be orchestrated. Again, it goes hand in hand with the workflow design. And then there is everything about observing how all of this data is interlacing and how AI is reacting on top of it, how AI models are working, how much token we are spending, how much time it is taking from reaching from point A to point B in the decision stream, and just working through that, because this is where you will get your cost economics right. This is where you will actually be able to define ROI. And here, not the marketing ROI of return on innovation, the true return on investment. That is how we go to look at it. And that is one of the ways we have gone ahead and structured our course to be available in four formats. We have got Jala, we have got Basync, we have got Dry Dock, and then we have got Lighthouse. Essentially, with all of these four modules, we are able to go ahead and do pretty much every bit of scenario, have that be orchestrated, have that be run through, and get outcome that you care for, and have an impact focused conversation in terms of what AI means for you.
And I think it's important, just as you were talking through workflow oversight and observability, that we've built traceability in throughout as well. So I'm not just reading the PDF and telling you what it says and letting you draw conclusions, but I'm letting you directly look back at where I got that conclusion from in the words. So I believe it, right? Go, trust but verify.
Definitely the trust layer has to be there, because with AI, most of the times, and the general tooling that we have access to, they are black boxes. We don't know what made it think the way it thought and come up with that conclusion. You can always ask that question, but here is a bit in enterprise world, you want that right in front of you as to why that decision was taken, when was it taken, who triggered that decision making, how was it all layered out, what did it cost me, and how will it impact my business. So bringing all of that together is what we are trying to do with ArkOS. And as we wrap up, what's clear is that ArkOS represents the shift in how organizations think about AI, not as something to rush into production, but something to operate with intention. You want to build solutions that will work for you. Don't try to rush it all the way from building it from the get-go using the OpenAI credits that you have or what have you. Try to ideate as to how will it work or not work for you. And based on that, then make informed decisions and choices as to how you should adopt AI for your organization. It's about owning the logic, understanding the economics behind how you can have AI work for you, and having the confidence to scale intelligence when the evidence supports it. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Shyam, any last thoughts?
No, let's go AI.
Awesome, awesome. If you are exploring how to take AI from experimentation to dependable execution, give us a shout out. We are here to go ahead and get that solved for you. We have built a whole engine around it. Until next time, this is Beyond the Stack. Have a great day.